Right. Okay. So there's the current results from last night's by-election. So the idea of unseating Burnham and having a heroic victory over Makerfield kept us all going. Possibly not realistic to unseat Burnham via a party that was only coined in February, but we did okay, given how new we are. What was happening on the doorsteps, of course, is most of the reform people had never actually heard of us. And of course, they were told what to say. So you'd open a door and the parrots would repeat, split the vote, split the vote, split the vote. And they wouldn't actually talk to you. So they would close the door because they were taught not to engage and pull faces. But from a party that was effectively sort of blacked out, and you couldn't actually discuss us effectively. There was media blackout. People get confused between who we were. Reform and Restore, obviously very similar names, and people just weren't told who we were. So from nothing to a standing start and at least countrywide name recognition, people could then start looking at actual policy papers, not playing the local politics tribalist personality game, and look at what's actually being offered. We've now got branch infrastructure springing up all around the country because the experience of canvassing has allowed lots of people to connect, so we can set up infrastructure in different places. And between now and the next election, that allows us to obviously work on candidates and also allows us to investigate. So one of the things following this course, we can investigate potentially Birmingham City Council, look at the people going along with critical race theory in 2020 and beyond. Low's position is still, if we achieve political power, to have a referendum on the death penalty. So that is realistically the only way at dealing with some of the problems in Birmingham, is removing corrupt and dangerous people from the country or potentially trying and executing them. So this is where we are now. But Burnham's result, as many commentators have said, and given the demographics, this is not sort of an ethnic bloc vote giving power to Burnham. It's the residents of Manchester who are totally clueless as to what's happening in the rest of the country. And when you talk about some of these people, they are living in a dream world. But once what has been happening in Birmingham starts to filter out throughout the country, the various attacks within the local authority, it becomes clear that Labour authorities are just dangerous. So Burnham has got in, and of course he may replace Starmer as the Starmer bunker falls to some kind of outside force. Even in this case, it's from an attack from the left. But Burnham, of course, can't resolve any of the existential threats to the country. We're still being invaded. The country is waking up to this fact, and that the bureaucracy is hostile to the British. So it's a case of unrotting the brains of our fellow countrymen and getting them to realise that the threat is currently existential. But we're not in a general election yet, so this is our first national politics test of what is possible. And again, from February till now, Rebecca took on English socialism on her own, and with the small dad's army of little platoons around her to give her a hand. But in terms of national politics, we've now got time to get fully organised, get people in every branch in the country. So when a next general election is called, you don't need people in car parks because everybody in the constituency is going to have a leaflet. The media blackout doesn't work. They know who you are. And when people realise that the only way really to resolve the crisis the country is having is a remigration strategy. So new Home Office, you denaturalise, remove leave to remain from people who came here illegally, deport the criminals. And along the way, you can do anti-migration draws. So you ban animal torture. In the case of halal, go and look at that kind of stuff. It's just animal torture, and it's not going to be allowed in Britain based on animal welfare standards. But because halal funds these criminal networks, Islamic gangs use them to, funnily enough, fund the expansion of Islam. It's very sensible to ban the sale of halal totally within Britain. So that would create an anti-migration draw naturally, but it's just the British. It's not tribalism-based stuff. It's based on ideas and attitudes. So if you're the sort of person who tortures animals, we don't want you in the country. So yes, animal welfare is more important than your beliefs and how you think you're entitled to behave towards innocent creatures. That kind of thing. So the dream, sadly, did not come true. Rebecca did not emerge as the heroic figure to unseat Andy Burnham and take Makerfield. But again, she's a very brave lady. She put her hat in the ring. All credit to her, and hopefully she has another go in future, and we can get somewhere. But the rest of the country, as I say, is currently up for grabs. Once people realise what's happening in places like Birmingham, you can see just a pragmatic surge to restore and away from reform, because again, they're not a serious party. All they can really say on the doorstep is split the votes, split the votes, split the votes, but they're not actually offering anything for the vote. So Restore are offering a return to, by a heavy, hard process. They're not promising anyone an easy life, but they're promising you a struggle to restore the country and leave it in a fit state to pass down to the next generation, who we're now fighting to look after. So a lot of the people campaigning for Shepherd were young guys who, of course, are being attacked by their institutions, often very bright and articulate, but have just been frozen out by some of the spirits and crooks in the bureaucracy. So getting the British state has effectively created sort of intelligent Baathists, the British Baathists who've been locked out of institutions and are now highly motivated to deal with them. The position in Birmingham is, of course, the rape gang inquiry has happened, and people in Birmingham are now hiding behind laptops, trying to give themselves some kind of sovereign immunity because they don't want police in. So there's a woman in Birmingham called Jennifer Southall who has claimed she's immune from prosecution, and they're now refusing to call police despite her overseeing the housing stock. Pardon me.